Who is this guy who has a Lamborghini doing all this crazy stuff?
People would think, who's this old age idiot doing these things? I've always lived that life. It's just never been documented until now.
Obviously, these cars are all investments, and I can see you're a businessman at heart.
You know, I feel that the investments and the choices I've made, I feel like that it's a safe place to have money. But I seem to have earned money, saved money, gone to the next level.
What is going on, people? Welcome back to the CEOCAST, the number one place for showcasing business and entrepreneurship. Now today, you lot join me on an absolute cracker of an episode because today's guest, he's all over social media. You would have seen videos of him drifting, his SVJ, his Fiestas, everything you name it, he does it. I'm with the one and only legend, McCann. How are you doing?
Well, good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for having me at your place, man. This is wicked. This is wicked.
Appreciate it.
So, I mean, I first heard about you. You came onto the scene, it was like almost like out of nowhere, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I remember I watched Ryan Taylor's vlogs and it was always like, my neighbor hates me or something like that for the stuff that you did. And I was just thinking, who is this guy who has a Lamborghini, who is drifting, who's got a jet skis in his back garden, who's doing all this crazy stuff, like a life that someone can only dream of? Who is he and what does he do? As someone who's, you know, into business and stuff like that, I'm always intrigued of like, what does this person do for a living? So, you know, I'm glad that we could finally have you on, have this chat. And hopefully reveal to your audience as well what you actually do for a living. Because maybe I get a feeling that some people don't really know.
No, we've never sort of talked about the sort of financial side on the channel. It's always been about the fun side. So yeah, it's still a question. Obviously, I get asked a lot, for definite.
Yeah, I think let's start off with this. Obviously, I just wanted to ask, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
47.
Okay, so you've lived a good life.
Yeah.
You've lived a good life. Where does it all start for you then? Where's the Mark McCann begin his journey? Talk me through the teenage years, your upbringing, everything. Let's throw it all the way back. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe and set the bell notification to all so you never miss a single episode.
Yeah, so we grew up just in a normal house, a normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
My mum and my dad and my brother.
Which area?
That was sort of South Birmingham, so a place called Bromsgrove.
Okay, yeah.
So we lived there. My dad always had his own business. And as kids, we used to go sweep up in the factory. That we weren't allowed anything unless we earned it.
Yeah, okay.
We were always taught that from a very young age. And we made, we reconditioned engines. Obviously, I was too small then. It was my dad and my granddad.
Is this car engines, is it?
It was, yeah. So car and lorries. It was when engines didn't last as long as cars. So this was like obviously years back.
Yeah.
Eventually, engines got better and the company went bankrupt. And I think that was about 1984. When he went bankrupt.
This is your dad's company then?
This is my dad and my granddad back then.
Okay, yeah.
And then we started doing engines for a local dairy, which did sort of like big lorries. And they were having problems with milk bottles smashing on transport. Mm-hmm. So then we made stuff to stop the milk bottles getting smashed, and it was called load control equipment. So we then started making straps and stuff to stop stuff falling off the back of lorries.
So you went from engines to basically hoists.
Yeah, so basically sort of like the same company, they had problems. They asked my dad to solve it because he was an engineer.
Yeah. And
then from then we've gone from strength to strength in the world of, like I say, stopping things falling off the back of lorries.
Fair play. And how old were you at that point?
So I'd have been sort of 10 years old when the company started,
yeah,
around that sort of age. And then, sort of, I went to school, didn't enjoy school at all, hated school, went through the motions, couldn't wait to get out of school. Mm-hmm. And then went into...
What year did you make it up to?
I finished.
Oh, you finished? Okay.
I finished, yeah, I finished normally. I didn't want to, that's for certain, because I always wanted to sort of go out there and make money, and that's what interested me. Was I always strive for nice things. I always liked, I liked the look of nice things, and I've always wanted that. So I always wanted to work, and school wasn't for me, that's for certain.
Where do you think that comes from then? Because obviously back then there wouldn't have been social media to look at, you know, nice things the way we can look at nice things now. So for you wanting that lifestyle, where does that come from?
I think sort of, from driving past nice houses and seeing nice cars. I always wanted that. And obviously not living in that sort of areas when we grew up, it was something I always strive towards. Mm. And luckily the strap business, which we call it load control, it's, you know, given our family a really privileged lifestyle, which, you know, really grateful for.
Yeah, done really well then, did it?
Yeah, it has. And with the laws of I don't want this to get too boring, but with the laws of sort of the police and VOSA, you know, safety and all that gets more and more and more. So the owner drivers, the lorry drivers, the car, everyone has to increase it. So it just, you know, it's always
sense, more demand for the business.
100%. You know, it's always, you know, our job always gets a little bit, you know, a little bit more technical every year, but we're good at what we do. We've got sort of a good stock, and yeah, we do a good job.
So then the years that you were in school, obviously, like you said, you didn't want to be there, right? And you were always trying to make money, or you wanted to make money. Did you do anything in school? Like, you know, like obviously kids are selling sweets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were you?
I first had my first business, I think I was about 13 years old. And I made parts for motorbikes. We were into motocross, and there were some bits which we could get from America, but not from the UK. Really easy part. So I made them at the engineering company at the weekends, and then sold them.
You made the parts yourself?
Yeah, we did. We made the parts ourselves.
Yeah.
I was good at like working on sort of machinery, and then eventually we sold more. Then I ended up buying more in, and then sold them to all different motocrossers. That was my first thing I did.
How did that make you feel at 13 years old?
Yeah, it was.
That's you know, the thing is, it's not even a conventional business of, like I said, selling sweets at school. It's you're making motocross parts essentially, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, doing that at 13 years old, IQ levels are high.
Yeah, I remember stuff like I was into sort of like the branding side of it, and I remember it was called Trick Bits. I remember, and I remember actually felt tipping the word and then cutting the stickers out individually from a white piece of like Fablon.
Oh, bloody hell, crazy.
It was, yeah. It sounds mad at the time, like now, but I suppose I had time on my hands, so it was easy.
What did you do in the rest of your teenage years?
I was massively into motocross and motorbikes, so I spent most of my time racing mopeds around woods areas and parks and stuff like that. And then I met a guy who, from the lorry side, who worked for Debenhams, and I started buying pallets which were returns. So,
what do you mean?
So when you'd go into Debenhams, you'd buy your product, there'd be a problem with it, you'd send it back, and then the returns would obviously add up in this warehouse, and then I'd buy a pallet, which I wouldn't know what the pallet was.
Okay.
So I'd buy a pallet at a time. I think I paid £68 for a pallet.
Yep.
And it could have toasters, or sandwich toasters, which were 3 years old and disgustingly dirty, or it might have a TV on there, which was worth 300 quid. So that was... And
so
this,
like a gamble of what's in the box.
100%. And this was before eBay or a good way of selling it. So I used to print off brochures, and then, you know, have people working on commission selling these parts.
Okay, so you've done quite a lot then in your teenage years, essentially.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And then we went from there to, again, through the same guy, we bought a load of kids' clothing from Debenhams end of range.
Yep.
And I do remember, like, kids' clothes were expensive back then. It wasn't like Primark now. Like, I remember the T-shirts had labels on with £14 and stuff like that. It was crazy money. And I had to take the labels off. And like, we used to sell them at the car boot sales, but of course, I never cut the labels off.
You never cut the labels off?
So like, people used to see them for like £4.50. We used to sell them at the car boot sales, and we used to sell loads on. It was tough work. Yeah. You know, tough work. But, you know, it added up, you know, and every week we made money, and it was a good way to...
Is this you, your dad and your brother? Or?
No, this was all me. Sort of like, I worked at the factory in normal hours, and then sort of... I used to do it. I lived with my mum and dad. They had a small house, but a big car garage they'd moved into then. It was a guy, it was his second home in the countryside. So it was a little 2-bedroom house, but it had a 6-car garage. Okay. And it was just full of shit, just full of stuff we were selling. Yeah. And I used to come home from work and then work in there every night till sort of like 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then go again and just saving money, just trying to buy that car I wanted.
This episode is brought to you by Sonomos. Now, if you don't already know about Sonomos, I don't know where you've been, because they got some of the nicest and most long-lasting perfumes out there. One of my top favourites is the Arabian Nights oil, and just a couple drops to keep you smelling fresh the whole day. Sonomos have got stores all over the UK, so chances are wherever you're watching this from, they've probably got a store near you, and if not, they're also online based as well. So there's no reason for you not to get it. And if you don't know what fragrance you want to get, I suggest going to the store, checking them all out, and seeing which one you like the most. So get your Sonomos fix today and use the code CEO15 for 15% off of your purchase. So to my understanding, right, obviously you mentioned motocross there. From research that I've done and, you know, just online digging, you were into motocross, rally, and stuff like that. But was that ever a career for you, or just hobby?
No, just hobby. Yeah, definitely. Like I always wanted it to be a career for definite, but I tend to smash myself up quite a lot, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, as people would see on your YouTube channel.
so,
There's no limits.
No, so I broke a lot of bones. Enjoyed every single second of it. Really, really good fun.
Yeah.
And then throughout the years of motocross, eventually my body stopped allowing me to do that, and then I went into car racing, which I've done really well at, luckily. And
what year is this then? How old are you?
So I raced motocross for forever. Like I think I started when I was probably about 17, 18 when my dad first afforded to buy my first bike, and then I never really stopped till about probably 10 years ago. All my friends came and went, had kids, came back, and if I wasn't broke, if I wasn't in plaster, I was at a race meeting for years and years and years. So
why so? Just because you enjoyed it?
I loved it that much. It was a great place to be. Motocross was a big thing back then, and there was a lot of friendly people, really good fun. But unfortunately, the way the sport's changed now, there's a lot of people, wheelchairs, paralysed, neck down, waist down. So it's a tough sport. So I think I got out of it at the right time. I broke my neck and my back lots of times, but I never ended up in that wheelchair. So I was lucky. And then now in 4 wheels and a roll cage, it's less likely to happen.
Yeah. And you're doing that now on your channel just for fun and stuff.
Yeah, it was, it's good fun. Like the racing in the cars now, it's really competitive, real good family sport. Lots of people because it's probably a little bit more money than motocross, you tend to get the slightly older age. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people there with kids. So all the kids play together. It's a really good place to be.
No, fair play. So then growing up, obviously you sent me an email and I read something along the lines of every time that your dad bought you a bike, you thought it was a brand new bike, but it was, yes. You tell the story.
Yeah. I only found out recently. So my brother was 2 years older than me.
Yep.
And he used to have I'm sure so many people who listen, back then it was just different. We didn't have presents every day, every week. There was no such thing. It was birthdays and Christmas. That was the only time you had a present. And every Christmas we had a new BMX. So my brother used to have a new BMX and I used to have a new BMX. Dead happy with that, chuffed to bits, and used to use it to the death to the next Christmas. And then I found out that my brother was getting a new BMX, but every year I was getting his old BMX just painted a different colour.
Straight up.
So
when did you find out?
Only about 5 years ago when I was
only
talking
5 years ago?
Yeah.
Is it? What was your reaction to that?
I thought that's genius. You thought
you can do that with your kids now.
Exactly, like £8 can of spray from Halfords and a new set of grips. And I was happy I didn't care because I was happy as Larry. Yeah. But I never twigged on that I was always one step behind my brother with the new bike. So
what's it like now with you and your brother?
Yeah, it's good. Like we have because I work with him every day. It's a different relationship. If anybody's ever done that, it's, we don't see each other out of work because we see each other every day. And with family, we argue, of course we do. So it's not an easy place working with family. But one thing I would say is if you fall out of a colleague at work, there's bitterness and, that goes on forever. With a family, if you fall out that day, the next day, it's a clean slate. There's no grudges. So it's good and bad, and we've got a good load of staff there. It works.
So what is it that you do now then? Because obviously you mentioned that we want to do this podcast in the evening. So what is it that you do for work now then?
So I go to the factory, which is in Birmingham, every day. I say every day, usually 5 days a week, but we're now trying to do 4.
Is this for the straps?
For the straps.
Oh, so this is still ongoing?
Yeah, still ongoing, yeah.
Okay.
So I go there every day, sort of 8 till 5.
Yeah.
And I sort of overlook, we've got some great staff, so I'm not so much on the shop floor anymore, but overlooking sort of our big purchases because we've got factories in India and China, so I'm overlooking what we're buying from there and just a general running of the shop now.
Oh, fair play. So then what was after your first business when you were 13 years old? As life went on for you during school, after school, what did you come across? What did you stumble across? How did you, make a name for yourself and make money for yourself?
Yeah, there was the various things along the way. I've always been into sort of getting onto the latest gadget, so we've done a bit of that. We did a shake weight. You probably don't want that. It's like a dumbbell thing which we used to import. Sold a lot of those, and even now I still do it now. I can't help myself. Like I've probably got about 10,000 fidget spinners in the warehouse, which I'm stuck with. So
I mean, I came in and first thing I see is your daughter playing with fidget spinners, so she's probably got them from you.
Millions of them, like they're everywhere. Every day she goes into the warehouse, she takes another one, and usually that stock would be precious to me, but like they're everywhere, and you win some, you lose some for definite. But I always feel that every time you lose some, it makes you stronger, and even the things which have gone wrong, I feel that they're a life lesson. So you end up making more money in the future when you have the bad ones.
Talk to me about this. You got something written here, right? I want to dive into this. You said bought a C63 Black Series from profit on buying million stamps. What's that about? What do you mean? What stamps? What C63? What are we? To break it all down for me?
Right. So there's an actual video on this on the YouTube channel. So what I did was the Royal Mail was in desperate trouble. This must have been about probably 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a second class stamp at the time was 36p. And overnight, they had to put the money up massively. So they're on about privatising it, but they ended up just putting the price up. So I think it was the 1st of April, the price of the stamps went from a second class stamp went from 36p to 50p. But if it's a second class stamp, it's that monetary value. So it doesn't matter how much or when you use it, it's worth a second class. So as long as you don't have 50p on it, as long as it's a second class. Mm-hmm. So I had about a month's window, and I borrowed everything I could. I sold everything I had and went and bought as many second class stamps as possible.
So that was a million stamps.
So I bought about 1 million stamps. So I bought the stamps, sat on them, and obviously they were worth 56p the one day. The very next day when it rolled over, they were worth 50 pence each. So then I sat on those stamps and waited, left it for about a year because other people had done the same thing. And then my stamps, they were all fighting over the same amount of profit. And I sat on them, waited. And then I think I ended up getting about 47 pence each for each stamp. So I think I made it was over 100 grand. It was a nice little profit.
So how much did that cost you?
Well, it was
times a million.
Yeah, so that was 360 grand. So
bloody hell! You made 100 grand with some stamps.
Yeah, so I sat on them for a while, and it was always a bit scary because I'll never forget. I had to wrap them in. I wrapped them in cling film and hid them at different places because it was such a lot of money's worth. And what happens if the mice ate them, or they went mouldy? Yeah. So I wrapped them up, and they looked like some sort of drug patches. They were in these massive, great big blocks.
So did you tell anyone you're going to do that?
No, because it was so much money's worth. It was so much money's worth, which I had around me in the house.
Yeah,
and you'd never stole them because you had no idea what they were. But one thing I did always worry about is when I opened these packages, were these self-adhesive stamps now disintegrated?
Disintegrated, yeah. And were they at all? Or no?
No, they were perfect, yeah.
Perfectly fine. So all your wrapping up and all that.
Yeah, it was all good. And I eventually sold them to a guy who was doing music flyers. So he was spending 50 pence on a stamp. Mm-hmm. And obviously I did a deal with him, and he had hundreds of thousands off me over only over a few months. He was happy. He saved a fortune. I got my money back and made some profit. And from that money, I bought my C63. And luckily, that's gone good again because I think that car cost me about. I think my white one cost me 81 grand.
That's the one literally right behind you, isn't it?
Yeah, the one right behind me. So I think that cost me 81. And now they've I don't know what it's worth. Maybe 130, 140, 150.
What would it take for someone to take that off your hands?
That one's not for sale.
What about the black one then?
Not for sale.
Not for sale either?
I don't, I think if I needed the money, obviously everything's for sale. And with a lot of things, you've always got a price. And for definite, most things in my life, I've got a price. But with those, I feel I've got to know cars really well. And I'm not a car dealer, but I've sort of invested a lot of time and money into cars. And I feel that one, out of anything in here, is the one which is limitless. I think they would just keep rising and rising and rising. The Mert Black Series market is huge, and there just isn't the cars.
So when you bought that, did you know, like, did you obviously do all your research and buy it for investment purposes purposely?
Yeah, do you know, with that one, no. Like, because it was, like, I've had that probably now about...
Because naturally, I say that because naturally, obviously, you're a petrol head.
Yeah.
So it's hard to distinguish between what's investment and what do I want.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Back then, there was a rental company over in Warsaw who I knew, and they had one.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go in the car. My friend Darb is really, really clever on cars. And he said to me, don't buy that. You will be bored within minutes. And it turned out to be one of the, well, probably the best car I've ever owned and my favourite car.
The Black Series.
The Black Series, yeah.
And obviously behind me, I don't know if people could tell probably, but we've got the most signature, iconic car that is on YouTube, essentially, the SVJ. People must be able to recognise it's yours. It's got mud all over it. Yeah. So would you say that you prefer that to this?
Yeah. Like that. Do you know, the SVJ is unbelievable. I'm so lucky to have one. Like, it's a party trick. The doors go up. It's amazing. But for me, normal aspirated, big noisy engine, rear wheel drive, traction off. That's what I'm about. Sidewards racing. And that's exactly what those are.
Arguably, I mean, that's an investment as well.
Yeah.
I think everything, would you say everything in here is an investment?
Yeah,
Pretty
I think,
much.
I think in here, yeah, there is. I sort of, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what, you're going to have to talk me through just a quick one, what's what here, because the only thing I know is this is a NSX with a different badge on it.
Yeah, so I've managed to double the value in that, put a new badge on that, so that's turned into a Ferrari. So that's worth a load of money now. So we've got a Brabus 850 GLE, very, very rare car. I got that from Slovakia. Really, really wanted one. Very, very hard to find. Got that at a good price, and that's definitely increased in value. And then there's a CLK DTM. You won't be able to see that on camera, but that's a super rare car in the corner.
The
silver one, the silver one in the very back. That they only ever made 100 of those, so that's rocketed in value again. The whole Mercedes thing. And then there's rally cars, Audi classic cars, RS200, Ford, a Ford RS200 Group B rally cars. Again, you know, they only ever made 200. They're only getting less. People crash them, sell them, smash them up, get stolen. So again, as numbers diminish over the years, they just go up in value. And especially this day and age, they are the new painting. You know, people invest in these cars, and it's definitely it can be a profitable business.
So let me ask you off the back of that, right? Obviously, these cars are all investments, and I can see you're a businessman at heart. If they weren't investments, would you still get these?
Yeah. So, do you know what? I suppose some of them yes, some of them no. Like I've had a couple of Carrera GTs, Porsches, literally only to make money. Ford RS200s for no other reason but, you know, just a safe place to put your money rather than in the bank. So, yeah, I suppose the answer to that is most of them would not be here if I didn't see an increase in money.
So we were having this conversation on camera, just like people put the money in watches or crypto, for example. You could put your money in appreciating assets, and for you, that's cars. You know what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I suppose I've never been a waster of money. I'm not into sort of spending loads of money on, you know, sort of silly, what I sort of class as silly thing, which obviously a lot of people find really enjoyable. But I've always been one for putting money into stuff which I can get the money back out if I ever needed it. Mm-hmm. So I'd always sort of buy something where there was an out. And with these cars, so far it's been an out. But obviously the way the world is at the minute, that might change overnight one day. But, you know, I feel that the investments and the choices I've made, because of the sort of like the rarities of the car, I feel like that it's a safe place to have money.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, just taking the C63, for example, if you had £80,000 just staying in your bank for 10 years ago, that would just depreciated in no time. It devalued.
Yes.
But obviously that is essentially doubled.
Doubled, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
it's only going to go up.
Yeah, I suppose sort of 80,000 back then was like 10 years ago. What's it worth now? Maybe 65.
Yeah, probably.
If that. And obviously, like you say, that's now probably gone up to, if we're honest, I'd probably get 150 rand tomorrow.
Easily. What else do you do for business then, Mark?
I've got another couple of things sort of which keep me busy. So we've got the Motocross brand has changed and evolved, and that's now, how old's that now? That's probably 13, 14 years old.
So what's that exactly?
No, it's not. It's 23 years old.
Oh, 23. Okay, you got that
Jeez.
completely wrong.
Yeah. So, God, yeah, that's been going a long time. Again, that was in my mum and dad's garage originally.
Yeah.
It was a busy garage. And now that still does okay. It's a market which is difficult because of times, because of, motocross essentially is a spare time sport where you do it if you had extra money, which obviously people are struggling with now.
Yeah.
So the whole company is it's had tough times, the same as so many other businesses. And then I've got another company. My friend at 14 got paralysed from the neck down doing a backflip on a BMX. He told me all about CBD. And then I tried it for all my aches and pains, and we started a CBD company probably about 2 years ago now. So that's doing really well as well.
Yeah, that seems to be a popular thing. I see quite a lot of people popping up with CBD brands and stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because like the whole drug thing, the whole cannabis.
Yeah.
We even couldn't get a bank account when we started.
What, for the business?
For the business, nobody would give us a bank account.
Seriously? But just because of the nature of the business?
Just because they see it as drugs, they didn't understand what that, and even now, it's still misunderstood. But, a lot of people are turning to that because, they don't want to, sort of poison their bodies with the drugs which are available over the shelf on the counter. And it's a natural equivalent, which for me works even better than a normal painkiller.
All right, so I'll say this. My mum has arthritis, right?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get her to use CBD because I've heard good things about it. But she doesn't want to have it because she believes it's a drug of some sort.
Yeah.
So if my mum watches this right now, can you tell her in a way that she will understand that, it's not drugs, it will help, and how it will help?
Yeah, so the cannabis plant, there's two parts of it, which is the CBD side, and the other part is THC.
Yeah, that's the chemical that gets
Now,
you
that's
high.
the chemical bit. So everything we do is 0 THC. So our product is good for an athlete, anybody who sort of like lives a normal day. And obviously THC is available. I'm not sure whether I think it's illegal still in this country, but we don't have any THC. So we only have the good bits of the plant. It's the results we've seen and the stories which have been told to us is, it's crazy the results CBD has had on people from all sorts of stuff. I've even heard stories of cancer and, all sorts of stuff. And it's definitely helped me. It helped my parents. It's helped everybody around me. So I'm a massive, not believer because there's facts, but yeah, I'm a massive fan of it.
You're involved in a multiverse of different businesses, different industries. What is it for you because it's obviously you have passion for business, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that about a business that you'd go into for? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you choose the industries that you go into?
Do you know what?
Is it just what makes money essentially?
No, because it's a good question because like I do get offered people, see me and, offer me investments in various different things. But unless I've got control or something I'm interested or understand, then it's not for me. I'm not into property. I don't understand property. I'm not into investing in other people's businesses. Like I like to put money in stuff which I'm confident I know about and something which I see a future in, but more importantly, something which I enjoy. So it doesn't, it's still work, of course it is, but like life's are precious and times are precious. So if I can do that work and still enjoy it, which is obviously something with our main business, our engineering business, it's definitely not exciting and it's definitely not, sounds bad, but it's not enjoyable. But it gives me a lifestyle and pays my bills and lets me do amazing things. So sometimes I have to shut up and put up. And also the legacy, which my parents and the amount of hard work that people have put into that business, no matter what's around me, I'll always be there 9 to 5 and doing my bit because it's the right thing to do.
So you mentioned there about property. So aside from the property that we're at right now, obviously your house, do you not invest in property otherwise?
Nothing at all. I've never, and I've my next door neighbour Wayne, we always joke about the long term. So he goes into something and he sees his payback time and his longevity. Well, I always live for today. I always have done, and whether I'm going to last tomorrow, there's a good chance I won't last that long the way I live. So I'm a big believer in getting in there, enjoying my money, spending stuff on stuff I believe in. I'm not into money in the bank. I'm not into long-term investments. I'm not into ISAs. I don't want pensions.
You live for today.
Today, for definite. And, we've been talking about just my father recently passed away.
I was going to pass on to that.
Yeah. And
sorry to hear that, by the way.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's that's been a massive learning curve for me as well, seeing my mum and dad life go into such a way now that there is little enjoyment. It's watching telly. They can't even go on holiday, and they've worked so hard throughout their lives, and now they're in the situation where it doesn't matter if they've got £10 in the bank or 10 million in the bank. It's all pointless. And my dad had this money to enjoy, and he never got to enjoy it. He never retired. He became ill from a skiing accident. He never got to travel the world. He never, they had holidays and they enjoyed a nice life for a small amount of time, but now it's all pointless.
Was your dad always onto work mode sort of thing?
Yeah, for definite. I'm really lucky that it's been inbred in me, and hard work. People message me on Instagram and say, have you got any tips, and it's really nice that people aspire from what I've done, but it's so hard to say because hard work is always the main thing, of course. Quick money is very, legal quick money is very difficult.
Mm-hmm, of course, yeah.
So, I've never been into illegal things. I've always done it the right way around. Obviously, I've bent the rules the same as everybody else and done everything I can to sort of, get those.
Yeah.
Of course, we all do deals and stuff like that. But I think it takes luck as well. And I think with making money, I don't know, I feel that it's a sad fact that you need money to make money a lot of the time. And it's horrible because that makes people who want to start on that ladder, on that journey, difficult. But for me, how I found things, that I always needed to invest to get to that next step. So you always needed that pot to start with. And obviously, in the way things are today, that pot just gets more and more difficult to obtain. And I feel when I made that pot, I think it was a lot easier.
Obviously, your dad passing away. With the way he lived his life and the way you live your life, did it make you reflect on any change or anything like that for yourself?
Yeah, for definite, on the fact that we're all working and we're all working hard and we're going to work and our free time is less and less and less, especially with the other companies we've got. And where is the end? We had a little conversation off camera just, and we were talking about, people say to me they've sold their business and, when will you retire? I'm not ready for retiring, but my dad was. And I always feel that if there was an end date, if you know that you were going to die on that day, you know when to retire, you know when to sell up, you know when to enjoy your life to the max. But that might be next year, or it might be, I might last another 50 years. So you've always got to think, I need enough money and I've got to have an income to last that 50 years. So I suppose, long story short, I do want to enjoy my life as much as I can, but I've got a wife now, I've got a little small daughter, and you've always got to sort of think, I need to have enough money to live and for the future. But it's also a massive thing now that I also want to, ideally work 4 days a week or 3 days a week, and I want to see my daughter grow up. I want to take her to school. I want to take her to the sports day. All stuff. Like when my dad was growing up, I didn't know my dad. My dad worked. And apart from seeing on my Saturday when I had to go and sweep up at the factory and get blisters on my hands, I didn't really know my dad. And we used to go to these different places. And I remember asking my mum for an ice cream, but I could never ask my dad because I didn't know him well enough. He never told me he loved me. And I think that was just a generation, it's a generation thing. And I don't want that. I want my daughter, I tell her I love her every minute. And it's so, that upbringing was strong and harsh, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But I think that evolution of the way people are now, things are changing.
But with your dad doing that, is that purely just because he's working all the time and, you rarely get to see him?
Yeah, it was literally that. As a kid, I didn't, my dad was there, sounds bad, but my dad was there to give me a bollocking. My dad was there to smack my bum when I came home and I'd been naughty.
Yeah.
That was what my dad was there to earn the money, pay the bills, and to put things right, get shit done when he came home. And that was a father figure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose with laws and regulations and what we can do to our kids these days,
it's all different.
There's a different way of doing it. But, but even that, looking after a child now and disciplining the child, it's so difficult. I don't know. We're so shit at Senna. She's only 3 and we're winging it every day. Like, I have no idea what we're doing.
She's your firstborn though, isn't
She's a firstborn, and we came to the party late.
Yeah, but I suppose with firstborn, it will always be like that with parents. You can always speculate how you're going to, raise your child, but until your child comes, it's each day as it comes, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And we're learning every day. We make mistakes. Somehow I've not dropped her. But yeah, it's a difficult one. And like, she frustrates me because I tell her to do something and she doesn't do it. And I think to myself, like, you should be listening to what I was saying. But I suppose when she gets older, hopefully that'll change and she'll become a lovely, kind person.
This episode is brought to you by Lord Timepieces. Now, if you've been watching CEOCAST for a while, you would know that over the years, I've been wearing these Lord Timepiece watches. They offer some of the most comfortable, luxury and affordable watches that you can wear anywhere. I'd literally wear them when I'm going out and about, meeting VIPs, or even going on holiday, or even when I'm working. So if you want to get yourself a nice luxury watch without breaking the bank, make sure you go to lordtimepieces.com and use the code CEOCAST for 10% off plus free shipping. They've got a huge, vast collection of watches, and I'm sure you'll come across one that suits you the most. So once again, go to lordtimepieces.com, use code CEOCAST for 10% off plus free shipping. We all do love a bit of free shipping, don't we?
With your missus, right? You got married three years ago, right?
No, this year. So
this year?
Yeah, April.
Okay.
So only a few months ago.
Oh, fair enough. How comes then? And how does it? Would you say it's changed your life in any way?
No, do you know we've always had a great relationship. I met her when I was 14.
Okay. So you've known for a long time.
Yeah, and
okay.
we were sort of like, we used to meet each other after school, and that was before text messages.
Yeah.
And we went to different schools as well.
Yep. So
it was difficult, and no idea how we managed to do that.
Talk to me the story how you met her.
So I met her because my friend used to live near her house. So obviously we catchment areas of schools. So I knew her from sort of down the park.
Yeah.
And I used to be on a moped of some sort, which cost 50 quid, which used to put 50 pence worth of petrol in it and race it around the park. And I knew her from there. We went our separate ways. Not quite sure why. We've never quite figured that out. She went and did her life. I went and did my life. And then, I don't know, probably about 7-8 years ago, I can't remember how many years now, but we sort of got together again. And like, she is, for me, like, God, sounds so soppy, but she's perfection. She's the perfect mother. She works hard. She grafts. She's honest. And she backs everything I do. She's one of those people where even if I'm in the wrong, or she backs my corner, and we're a team. We have a great relationship. She helps me, whether it's doing errands or whether she's looking after the house, or she's massively a part of the sideline businesses I have. But yeah, she's a good egg. She's definitely a keeper.
With the things that you get up to, the things that you do, in life, would you say she helps keep you in check and stuff so you don't do anything too reckless?
We had a big roll of a Mini the other day, a big roll. And it's on one of the latest videos. It was not a good situation. It was her idea. So the stunt we did, the prank we did, was her idea. So
what did you do? Talk me through that.
We decided we were going to play bowling. So we got 10 barrels. Excuse me. We got 10 barrels, empty, big 40-litre containers. Got a Mini. A scrap Mini, £250, ripped all the ring mirrors off it and hit these barrels in reverse. So the only way you could see them was by look behind. So me and my friend took it in turns, the same as bowling. We had 2 goes. You had a strike or a spare. And we did that, did bowling just for fun, just for the YouTube channel. And then I wasn't getting enough speed, so I decided to take my seatbelt off and go as fast as the car would in reverse. And
what did your seatbelt have anything to do with the car speed?
Because I couldn't. because I broke my neck, I couldn't look over my shoulder good enough.
Yeah.
So I decided that was a disadvantage at this time. So I decided to take the seatbelt off, thought it'd be fine, hit the barrel, first one squashed, basically turned into a ramp, and the car just rocketed backwards into a massive pipe roll, and I crashed. And the good thing was, I've rolled many cars. I'm used to rolling cars, no problem whatsoever. But I remember having no seatbelt on. It was like being in a washing machine, and there was all sorts of stuff flying around because we'd bought these cars from the scrapyard. It still had other people's possessions in, which was going all around me. But I remember sticking out my head out the window and just saying to Jordan, how many did I get down? That was all I was interested in, is whether I'd still won the competition.
Were you injured at all or anything like that? Or?
No, and God knows how.
So it was just a competition you got interested in?
Not a scratch, not a bruise, not a tweaked muscle. So I've sort of, I've been on fire a few times, and I always think that sometimes maybe my lives will run out, but I think with the fire thing, I've had that many sunbeds throughout my life. I think I'm flame retardant. So I think...
this is a good subject to move on to, actually, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, Ryan Taylor's neighbour, and the fact that, you're just talking about YouTube channel now, yeah? You're 47 years old. You started your YouTube channel when? Like, when would you say was the first time you came on social media?
It was only...
Within lockdown, I want to say.
No, 9 months ago. Yeah. It's literally that new. So it was just before, we're not even a year in yet.
So why? I mean, you've lived a very private life for 49 years, essentially. 47 years, sorry. So why did you decide, you know what, let me make content, let me come in the social scene, it's a complete different world.
Yeah, you're so right. And when I was growing up, if you told people what you had, you're a show-off, an arsehole, and you got a bad name for it. And
I feel what my dad tells me all the time.
Yeah, and it's evolved. People like to share and take enjoyment from other things which people have, which is exactly how it should be, but it never used to be that. But obviously, generations now, they enjoy other people's success, which is a great thing, which has now become a real thing. And I suppose I met Ryan. And...
Was he actually your neighbour?
Yeah. Okay. He lived not far away, and I met him, and he was a very, very interesting character, extremely clever, so switched on, and he understands this whole social media thing like nobody I've ever met before. Mm-hmm. He has an answer to every situation.
So just to put it in perspective, have you had met people before who were on social media?
Only famous sports people.
Okay.
So not the sort of the new generation of famous. Mm-hmm. Not plenty of people who had big numbers from success of world championships, but not through
personalities,
doing mad things or personalities. That's the bit which I was new to. Yeah. The same as YouTube. I watch YouTube for how to fix or change a battery in a car fob. Mm. How to start my flat battery, not to watch somebody who had their channel. And with Ryan, I didn't know who he was. And I understood, and he told me, you've got an interesting life here, which people would like to hear about. And I thought that we'd go onto YouTube, it would be a flop. People would think, who's this old age idiot doing these things? And I was amazed that people were interested in what we did, and people did seem to enjoy my lifestyle and what I got up to. And close friends of mine didn't know what cars I had, what things I had in the garages, in the warehouses. They didn't, even good friends of mine said, I didn't know you had that. And it's gone from that to everybody knowing my business. And I'm glad I did it, and I enjoy every single second.
Yes, I was going to say, how does that make you feel from at one point no one knowing your business, no one knowing essentially that this exists, to now everyone knowing that this exists? You've got a C63, SVJ, etc. What's that whole transitional feeling like?
I was embarrassed to start with, and it was difficult making YouTube videos in front of people, in front of my friends, especially my family. The hardest part was in front of my friends. I felt like a fraud, and it was difficult, but now it's not in second nature, but I find it a lot more natural and a lot easier. And I can tell when I watch videos back, it's getting better. And I feel privileged and honoured when people come up to me and say, can I have a selfie with you? To start with, I was like, oh my God, like, aim higher. You know, people used to say, like, you're a legend. And I used to think, you need to lift that bar. Like, it's definitely not me.
Did you ever have imposter syndrome because of it?
Yeah, but then I think about the reason people are saying that is because they watch me on the telly, they watch me on their computer, on their phones, and they enjoy what I do. And if I think about myself watching people, I think they're legends. You know, when I watch people who are famous, but they are just real people. And YouTube is a great platform for allowing normal people to have this exposure. So, you know, I've told this story so many times recently, but I went into Morrison's the other day and there was a girl and I asked her where the ready-made hard-boiled eggs were. And she her face, she was like, fucking hell, straight in my face. And she's like, I can't believe I've met you.
Oh, is it?
My boyfriend would be so jealous I've met you.
Yeah.
And it's a pleasure, you know, it's a pleasure that people... We went on our honeymoon. We were lucky enough to go to Barbados. And the first day we got to Barbados, I went to this restaurant at lunchtime, this little like beach cafe. And this girl came up and said, like, my boyfriend wants a selfie with you. And I thought, God, like, that's it. I'm massive in Barbados. Do you know what I mean? I've made it. Like, I'm obviously huge over here. And then I was there for 2 weeks and not a single person from that second came up to me. But I remember texting Jordan, the guy I do all this with, and to Nick, and I'm like, fucking hell, I've been recognised in Barbados. And yeah, not a single one from then to when I got home. But no, I do enjoy it when people come up and, like, I have messages and then people say, I've seen you today. I didn't have the balls to come up and say hello to you, which I think is madness, you know. Come and say hello. Come and tell us that you enjoy it or what you don't enjoy. Not so much what you don't enjoy, but come and tell me I'm great and what we're doing is good fun. And like, I enjoy that interaction. Like, the more successful the channel gets, the more messages I get, the harder it is to reply. Mm-hmm. But I do like to, I try to like everybody's comment or reply to people as much as I can.
Acknowledgement.
Yeah, because, you know, I think while it's still small enough to be able to do that, you know, and I hope one day, you know, it won't become that easy. And I hope it does get numbers where it's more difficult to do that. But I appreciate everyone watching massively. I appreciate the support we get. You know, I feel like I think we've got more around 50 odd thousand subscribers now. And a few things which have happened recently, I feel like I've got 50,000 friends. You know, I feel like, you know, DMO's a great example with his DMO army. You know, he's got a fan base there, which, you know, he could ask them to do anything and they would do that. And I feel like the same, we've seen some things over the last few days and, you know, we've got a following where people, you know, have our back.
Have you thought of like a nickname for your fans and followers?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I haven't. I'll have to do I'll have to ask DMO what's the way forward on that. But yeah, no.
I mean, the first time I come across your content, I was thinking this guy is having a midlife crisis. What is he doing? Yeah. Were you doing this stuff before YouTube anyway?
Yeah, like, you know,
were you drifting your SVJ just for fun without cameras?
Yeah, and it's a fact that was not normal life because I didn't do it as much as I do now, but I always enjoyed driving my cars. I've never had cars, even the stuff which sort of I found as an investment so much. I still like to enjoy those cars. And I suppose, it's always been Ryan said something very clever to me one day, and it's so true. And he said, I've always lived that life. It's just never been documented until now. And as a family, we never, like some families had cameras, we never had a camera in our household. So we haven't got pictures, like the odd picture of me as a kid, the odd picture, like with my dad, we had to find photos of him for the funeral. Trying to find the photos, it's like nearly impossible. We weren't a family of cameras. Well, now, when Senna gets older, she'll be able to see her dad being a dickhead like so much, and she'll like be able to, you know, I go to her school now and I drop her off at school, and like dads in the car park say they watch the channel and stuff like that, and I think to myself, at what stage if things carry on as they are, you know, people in a class are going to know who her dad is, and it's, you know, which is amazing. And I think it's, I'm proud of what my dad was and is, you know, and I hope that, you know, with what we're doing, she's not going to think midlife crisis dickhead. She'll think I'm proud of my daddies.
No, 100%. But I came across a video once of yours where you went shopping in the SVJ with your daughter in the passenger seat, and you pulled up to Tesco or Morrison's, and your missus was in the boot. Was she in there the whole time?
No.
Are you just saying that for the camera?
No, do you know what? It's funny because, you know, and most people know that she just got in there. You know, it's entertainment and it's for fun and it's a laugh. And the YouTube comments, it's so different. Like YouTube comments, you tend to have people on there who like what you do, they subscribe to you, and you have the odd comment of, you know, you think surely you can see that that's not how life is. But TikTok comments, they're absolutely hilarious. Like I literally have, you're a fucking idiot, like your missus is going to get killed, like driving round. How do you think, why isn't she in the passenger seat? Why you should be in there? And I'm like, mate, she got in there 25 seconds before and I've reversed 3 meters. You know what I mean? It's just for shits and giggles. That's what we do it for.
Of course.
Just a bit of fun. And yeah, like, I suppose probably that's still illegal what I did for 3 meters, I'd have thought. But yeah, I'm trying to, you know, I see all these YouTubers breaking the speed limits and filming it. I wish I had the guts to do that because it would make our content way easier. But I'm always scared about technology and if they come after people afterwards. So I'm trying to make our, you know, I'd love to be able to do donuts round the roundabouts and down the roads because I'm lucky enough I have the ability to be able to do that. And I'd love to go down the A38 through and do all those stunts on the road in front of people. But I have the opportunity to do it legally.
At your own house.
At my own house. So at the minute I can do that content without daddy being in prison.
Fair play. Well, before we come to the end of this podcast, right, I just want to ask you a question. You have a many array collection of cars. If you had to put a value on the amount of cars that you've got, what would you put it at?
Oh God, it's.
I mean, we've got 500 grand roughly behind me.
Yeah, like on its way there. Yeah.
Let me ask you actually. Yeah, with the way you treat your SVJ and the way you drive it, what do you think other people say towards it?
Yeah. Do you know, I have so many people. We went to Goodwood and we got invited by Lamborghini, which was amazing.
So wait, hold on. I've got to go through this one. Lamborghini have seen the way you drive your car. They see the drifting in the dirt and all that, and they invited you to Goodwood.
I've got a good relationship with Lamborghini, I think,
yeah,
as far as I know. And like I walked into that hospitality unit in Goodwood, and without a doubt, I was the most recognised man in that facility, without a doubt. And for good or bad reasons, I'm not quite sure, but all the PR staff knew who I was, or the dealers knew who I was, you know, or a lot of the owners knew who I was. And yeah, I don't know, like people say to me, I wish I could do what you do. And, you know, the car, when I come to sell it, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to bury it in the garden? Maybe that's my first massive illegal thing I've got to do is just say it's got nicked and bury it somewhere up in there and get done for insurance fraud. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But I don't know. Is somebody going to think that car's got a history? Not quite the same as Ayrton Senna or Nigel Mansell's Formula One car, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Are people scared? Have value
to some people, 100%.
I hope so. You know, I don't feel like if I gave that car a good clean and a good wash, it gets serviced regularly, it gets looked after, probably more than most people's cars because I'm conscious of it shitting itself one day. So you know, we do look after it, you know, behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what other Lamborghini like
your STO.
Yeah, STO. Yeah, that's a lively little car, which I found out, you know, it's, again, like tomorrow we're doing a video for Carwell and, I go on there and I go there and I race against Matt and Yanni and people like that. And it's great to be on camera because, I've become part of their production team, which is, amazing. I've sat there and I've watched these people on my telly, and then I look across and I've got Yanni the one side and Matt the other. And they're normal people, normal, nice, genuine people. But again, to me, they were like celebs. And I go there now, and the people who gift their cars to Carwow for the day, they think I'm a celeb, and they're like, "Oh, can't believe I've finally met you." And yeah, it's bizarre. And I suppose for them, what I do with the car, people say, "I wish I had I don't know whether it's stupidity or balls or whatever it is to do that." But I'm not quite sure. Maybe comments below or say what people think.
So then, if you had to put a value on your whole collection.
Right, I've had to for insurance, and it's crazy, but like I feel blessed and honoured to be able to say it. But I think at the minute it stands at about 3 million, which is a crazy figure, which has come from, I don't really know how it's accumulated to that, if I'm honest, because
Is this from like buying cars throughout your whole life though, not so just suddenly?
Yeah, no, definitely, sort of, I've always had a collection of cars, and I suppose each one has got to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, where to the stage where I've been able to, I've got Ken Block's RX-43. Now that car to me, it's a rally car. It's the ultimate car. Like, it's one of those videos, it's in videos I've watched time and time again.
It's not this one, is it?
No, it's
the one that's got the vinyl on it.
The vinyl on, yeah. And that car, it deserves to be in a museum. It deserves to be in Dubai on, in some sort of hotel, foyer. And that car, again, how I've ended up there, I'm not quite sure, but I seem to have earned money, saved money, gone to the next level. And I seem to accumulate to a place now where I'm in a lucky situation that, one day maybe I'll sell it all and become a recluse, not speak to anybody, and become boring and just spend money on, I'm not quite sure what, I'd pick a mix or something. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I've accumulated those cars, and we've people know about them now, and I'm lucky.
And the question is, this is going to start a debate for a lot of people in the comments as well. What's the best driver's car?
For me, non-turbo, noisy, traction off, rear wheel drive. So
if you have to put a brand on it, a specific car, because we've got a couple of subscribers here who were Porsche owners, and they would argue that they are the best driver's cars. Am I right? Or?
Do you know what?
Yeah.
No, definitely. For look, let's break this down, okay?
Go on.
So for looks, Lamborghini.
Yep.
For God, it's so hard. It's close, right? I've always been Merc, and then I've now got quite a few BMWs, and that M3 is and I've always been a C63 man, and M3s were not for me.
Which M3?
An E46 M43 is the most unbelievable car a man can drive, because it was before too much electronics. This is getting really boring for everyone.
No, this is interesting for everyone here. I guarantee you for a fact.
But an E46 M3 has not too much power. It's rear-wheel drive and an amazing balance. They've got suspension right. They haven't got too many electronics. You can turn the electronics off, which a lot of these cars, ESC, electronics off, is a bullshit button. It doesn't work. You have to take fuses out. But that ESC traction off button turns everything off. And that car, you don't have to be an amazing driver. Like, I can do things in that car which I could only have ever dreamed of, because it does everything you ask it. It goes to the inch you want it to. It is one of maybe the best car a man has ever built. E46 manual coupe BMW M3.
I don't even have to look behind me right now, but I could tell you one of them's got a hard one after what you just said. Question is, what do you think of E60 M5s?
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think the whole M series on. I'm hopefully getting an M4 CSL. I've put my name down for one of those.
The new one?
The new one, yeah.
Do you think you'll enjoy that though?
Yeah, I think I will, because I think as long as it depends what BMW, the powers that be, allow you to do. We've had all sorts of cars in this garage. The manufacturers allow you to do so much stuff, and a lot of them don't allow you to do much. Like this. The Honda Ferrari NSX, that car, you turn traction off on that car and you are in complete control of that car. If it goes wrong, it's your fault. It literally lets you turn everything off.
So as you're saying, as a driver, it's a good thing for you.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I can go up there, I can, it's like ballet dancing. Like it floats sideways. It's amazing. And then COK DTM, one of the rarest, most beautiful cars in the world, one of the most elite cars in the world. It will allow you to do nothing. Like I can't even drift it properly because I turn everything off and it still stops me from doing stuff.
And that's quite an older car, isn't it?
So, yeah, an older car as well. You know, the Lamborghinis, I do stuff in the Lamborghinis and every now and again it just says, I've had enough. And just literally every dash comes on the dash, like every light comes on the dash, like a DJ, like a Christmas party. And the thing shuts down and says, enough, Mark, enough. Go have some tea, go see your daughter, stop fucking me about. And it switches everything off. And then sure enough, luckily enough, a few hours later, it forgives me and it all starts working again. But yeah, like the M series, the Honda, amazing car. So yeah, but people who are making cars, let us be able to turn everything off. If there's one thing you can do, please let us give this the ability that if we want to smash them to pieces, let us allow us to do that.
I want to end it on this note, Mark, yeah. Obviously, you have a YouTube channel, you create amazing content. One of the funniest things that came to my head just now as well is you don't ever need to do sponsors, right? So when I come across a sponsor in your video and you act like I got a gun to your head, that was the funniest shit ever. But my point with this question is, if you had to, what's the message that you want to leave for people that watch your channel, or, you know, when you come and see Mark McCann, what's the message that you want people to live by?
Yeah, do you know what? I've never gone and dug wells in Ethiopia. I've never particularly given money to charity. I'm not this sort of like angel which has come from anywhere. You know, what we've started to try and do is give back. I'm really fortunate. A lot of YouTubers, they need that sponsorship. You know, they need it because that's their wages. That's their only source of income. Now, luckily for me, I'm in a real rare opportunity that I've got a really good job, really good jobs. And the YouTube for us is fun. So I suppose for us, if we can have fun, entertain people, and then if sponsors want to come on board, like that ad you're talking about, we kept on getting asked for these ads. And I didn't want to do them because I didn't want our audience to have to sit through an ad, because I don't like sitting through ads. But
I apologise.
Yeah, but you have to pay your bills. Like I watch all your content, and the ads don't upset me, but I understand that's you've got a mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
And you haven't got, you know, this is your livelihood. So when we decided to do the ad, I explained to the company what we wanted to do, and I said, this is what we're going to do, and they were like, no. So I was like, well, unfortunately then,
we're not doing
that's it. It's either that or nothing.
Yeah.
And they said, film it. So I filmed it. And like you say, Nick's got a gun to my head and pretending I'm reading it from a script. But if we're going to do an ad, we'll make it entertaining. And if we're going to do an ad, I'll make it as good as our other content. And with our team around us, which isn't me, and I must put that across. Like, I'm the face behind it, but the team I've got around me are everything. And I'm not the clever one. And they're making this content and these ideas. You know, we all spend hours and hours thinking of funny things to do. And when we make this content, the ads, they're going to be, if people are going to watch it, it's going to be as good as the normal stuff. So they're not going to really know they're watching an ad.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's going to be our ethos from doing that. But what we want to do, like I say, I'm no Robin Hood. Honestly, I'm definitely not. But our subscribers are making these ads possible. And our subscribers are making this revenue, which we don't want to go to waste. So when we take these ads on, because of our subscribers, we're going to have some money in the pot. And the first time we did, we gifted it to a local food bank and we bought them a van. So we made it, again, sort of relatable to the advert. It made sense on the advert. So we're going to try and, the money we get in, we're going to try and give it to other people who are in need more than us and try and make it. And like I say, I'm not trying to be an angel or some sort of superstar, but because the only reason this is possible, like what you do, the ads you are able to make is because people invest their time, their hard-earned time into watching your stuff. So we're just going to hopefully try and give that to people who need it more than us.
Fair play, fair play. I think on that we're pretty much going to end, to be fair. So Mark, I want to thank you very much for your time, having me down at your house. I'm sure we'll be back here soon doing some rally course or something like that, whether it's with my car, the minis, play bowling. I don't mind. You pick a game. I'm down for it, man. I'm down for it. You want to play chase with the cars? Let's go.
No, it's a shame today because you were going to get to do the mini lap because I desperately wanted to do the mini lap. And since the sun came up this morning, it went away and it's rained all day. So I'm gutted. So you must come back so people can see just how fast you are.
Don't worry, I'm coming back. I'll make sure I come back. I'm going to bring all the people, the drivers, people who think they're drivers with me. So I'll come back for sure for that one, 100%. But Mark, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
So we've got the YouTube channel is Mark McCann 64.
Yep.
And on Instagram, it's Mark McCann 64 as well. Please message me. You know, we like the interaction. And we've started doing a podcast on car-related things.
Is that on Mark McCann channel as well?
No, that's on a thing called Rotbox. So that's the registration of the car. Rotbox podcasts. Again, just car influencers so far. People who are interested in very car orientated about YouTube and how the car people have made YouTube. So yeah, that's another place where you'll find us.
I have one last question for you. Just came to my head, top of my head. What does the 64 stand for, and why 64?
64. Again, this is a difficult one to answer at the minute. So my dad's race number was 64. So my dad is the original 64. So we're going to have to get some T-shirts made. So cheeky bastards say that it's my age and it's my date of birth. And my mates always say that. Every time I have a birthday, they say I'm 50. So no, it's my dad's original race number, not to be confused by my age.
You heard it here first. Mark McCann, age 64 on CEOCAST. Mark, no, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me, man.
No, I appreciate it.
On. And until then, I'll catch you lot on the next episode of CEOCAST next week. Peace. Lovely. Good?
I loved it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Live audience, appreciate you coming down.